IDF talks about being, one of the most moral armies on the planet. Let's talk about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, where the IDF comes to, mans and controls the area where civilians come to get food.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm not feeling 100%, as you can tell from my voice, but the moment I saw the crook, Jonathan Conricus, on my feed, I had to do a video. This time he's on Sky News, joined with Yalda Hakim. Jonathan the crook and his pal David Mincemeat Mensa have been working precariously on various news platforms spreading their propaganda. Let's take a look.
Comparing the actions of the IDF to what Hamas is doing and what Hamas has done. Because, if we talk about the IDF talks about being, one of the most moral armies on the planet, a responsible army. What we're seeing now, not just citing our report here, but Haaretz, one of the flagship newspapers in Israel, Israeli investigative reporters, talking about this being a widespread issue. It's not just about our report. We're now hearing more and more soldiers coming out and saying this. Are we seeing a breakdown in the chain of command of the IDF?
No, far from it. And I think you're citing two sources that are, the Haaretz report was widely condemned, and many times I've had credit for and respect of Haaretz, but I think this report was very, very politically motivated and founded again on anonymous sources that were not speaking up and were not providing any claims. And since the claims are interesting and they fall into the narrative that is very popular here on Sky and many other outlets, which seeks to put blame and responsibility on Israel, it is widely amplified.
Jonathan says many times I've had respect for Haaretz, but this report was very much politically motivated. In other words, he respects the report, any report which portrays the IDF in a positive way, but condemns when those same respected organizations do not align with his objectives. Here's a recent report from Haaretz: IDF soldiers ordered to shoot deliberately at unarmed Gazans waiting for humanitarian aid. And below here you can see it says Israeli soldiers in Gaza told Haaretz themselves. Jonathan's words don't hold any value at all.
What we're talking about here, Mr. Conricus, is not a combat zone. We're talking about people coming, civilians coming to seek aid.
No, we are talking about a combat zone. We are indeed talking about the combat zone.
Let's talk about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, where the IDF comes to, mans and controls the area where civilians come to get food. On June 11th, we saw 57 people killed. On June 17th, 59 people killed. On June the 29th, around 50
allegedly, according to Hamas numbers.
On June 29, 31 Palestinians were killed.
Yes, all of those are allegedly, according to Hamas numbers.
To get food. So, Mr. Conricus, the fact is that whether or not you condemn our report or Haaretz's report, the point is that should the IDF not be taking responsibility for the actions of its soldiers?
No, I think you're very, very mistaken. And all of the numbers that you said, I think you should professionally say that this is allegedly and according to Hamas sources. And let's be clear who we're citing and referencing. I know that it's very tempting to use Hamas numbers as if they are true, but this is a terrorist organization that abducts civilians, murders people, and then lies about it in the media. And you're sitting there and saying as if those are true numbers.
I would caution. These are Israeli investigative journalists who are saying it. It's a flagship Israeli newspaper that's talking about it. We've seen the IDF soldier in our report saying it. So you can sit there and condemn the soldier, you can condemn the Haaretz report, and you can say that these numbers of people who are dead may not be true. But do you not believe that the IDF should take responsibility for all of this?
I'll tell you what I believe. I'll tell you that I believe that the Israeli forces are fighting in a densely populated urban area where the enemy, Hamas, is using civilians as human shields.
Let's talk about the numbers, Jonathan. How many civilians have you killed, eh? How many Hamas have you killed? Because we've seen time and time again that when this question was asked to you and your colleagues who I may add are in very high positions, had zero answers for. They were humiliated on air for not having the answers, and it's shocking and embarrassing that you criticize other sources when you don't have any information yourself. How can it be a combat zone when the IDF are planning to move over 600,000 Gazans to what the Israeli government calls a humanitarian zone? There's nothing humane about it, just another concentration camp.
When I read you these numbers, do you accept that dozens and dozens of civilians are being killed trying to get aid?
I know that there have been instances, yes, where there's been shots fired and there have been violence at the distribution sites. I fear that, the organization that stands to gain from it, it's not the IDF and it's not Israel. The organization that is trying to dismantle the independent provision of aid to Gazans is Hamas. And they are the ones who have been instigating events on the ground.
Can I ask you, do you believe that soldiers within the IDF who have committed these crimes, and we've seen the likes of Ehud Olmert say that war crimes are being committed, a former Prime Minister of Israel,
Without
do you believe that these soldiers should be prosecuted?
Most definitely, whenever an Israeli, and that, by the way, has already happened. We've had Israeli soldiers that have been reprimanded. We have them relieved from duty, even officers. Whenever there has been wrongdoing, and that unfortunately is part of war everywhere, British troops, American troops, whenever you fight, sometimes people make mistakes and sometimes there's wrong judgment, and then there's investigations, and then people face consequences.
Jonathan talks about wrongdoing. There's wrongdoing and then there's deliberate massacre of innocent life. 335 bullets were fired into a car that Hind Rajab was in. What, you think we forgot about that, Jonathan? What about the paramedics you massacred and then buried along with the ambulances? Was anyone held accountable for it? The massacre of a little girl deserves more than a sacking. There's no other army in the world in modern times who has inflicted this type of merciless killing.
What we're seeing here is IDF soldiers coming out in reports by Israeli reporters, by our journalists on the ground in Israel, saying that these crimes are being committed. We're showing you the numbers of civilians being killed, trying to simply get aid and food, whether they arrive early, whether they arrive late, whether they arrive on time.
Provided.
We see the death toll continue to rise.
I think you're cherry-picking information.
On the ground in Gaza.
I think you're very much cherry-picking information because you failed to mention that more than 50 million meals have been provided over the last 4 weeks.
Well,
and those are the same Palestinians who claim are crowding to get food. I think that's important information for your viewers to be aware of, and the fact that you're not reporting it is not really good, not part of the story.
We've been reporting about the blockade, the aid blockade that lasted
but have you reported about 40 million meals that have been provided?
And we've been reporting about the number of people killed trying to get aid when the UN and various other charities and aid organizations haven't been able to get their trucks in, haven't been able to get their supplies in. And you've put in place this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is, shrouded in controversy, the way that they've handled the aid.
Which is providing food to the people who need it, directly to those who need it, not to Hamas, not to corrupt UN organizations, but it is providing it directly to the people who need it. And of course you are upset, and of course UNRWA is upset, and of course many people are upset because this is undermining the control of Hamas over the Gaza Strip.
Guys, that's enough of this vile, miserable man for one day. The lies on the number of aid delivered, the denial of loss of innocent life, the lack of accountability is shocking. This won't be the last we see Jonathan on this channel, and nor will it be for any of his so-called colleagues. We're here to expose, and we won't stop, God willing. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Support me by liking and subscribing, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.